I felt like there was a struggle to use Mayweather correctly. Anyone?
I don't know if it's the character or the actor or maybe a combination of the
They
two.
didn't seem to have a lot of faith in him, right? And some of those deliveries of those lines were flat, in my opinion.
The dialogue itself was like it's like they didn't know what the heck to do with him. He was a Boy Scout, like he was so squeaky clean. There was nothing. He didn't progress. The only character who really didn't progress at all.
Ideological kid, but they didn't know how to grow him from that.
He's the Finn of Star Trek Enterprise. I guess the only thing to say here is that, like, it does look like he's responding to leadership from Archer and taking on traits of his leader, where he was like also being like a uncooperative prisoner without being as antagonistic as Archer, but still he's just like,
a little bit. Series. He has a lot of sitcom characteristics about him, very two-dimensional.
Optimism and the childlike innocence that he was put in there for.
Unfortunately, this character doesn't come back, and I'm going to make a case for several reasons why we may have wanted him to come back. It says they had little faith. It seems they had little faith in Mayweather's heart. I got to be honest. If I got a guy acting in front of me, I'm a director, and he's delivering some of these lines like that in these moments that are supposed to be sort of emotional, and I might be afraid to give him more to do in that episode. I might start scaling back his role. I don't know.
But there was no arch, no pun intended. There's no arch or backstory for him to draw upon to give any emotion to any of his scenes. It was all, okay, you're a Boy Scout cookie cutter boomer character with no arch and no story, and yet we want you to deliver. Now all of a sudden we want you to deliver this episode.
I feel like Tripp made a mistake. You see, when you're doing an air raid in a spaceship, maybe, just maybe, you need to let them know what your intentions are. And who better to learn from than the Martians?
They're not in over their heads contemplating like the war on terror. They're evil and they don't really have a good reason to do this. In that sense, it doesn't question that part of the war. But maybe we can think about what's going to happen. Will we be changed? Let's look at these people, the Tandarians. He's like, we were different until the Cabal came after us. And, we were different before 9/11. We weren't that vengeful either considering what happened to us. It's like, will we change? How do the Tandarians reflect what might happen to us? And George Takei, he lived through it, so he has a right to talk about it. But I wish every once in a while, and does anyone agree with me? Wouldn't it be nice if after George Takei told this story, which he has a right to tell, wouldn't it be nice if he said afterwards, but America's been real good to me since?
He used to say it that way.
He did used to say it that way, didn't he? Was this poignant or is this heavy-handed?
It gets to a heavy-handed point because they try to portray the Tandarians as completely irredeemable.
But then again, when Archer doesn't punch him, Dean Stockwell seems to be thinking different stuff, and also he's showing deep paranoia. And it looks like he's reconsidering his moment of acting and looking alone, like when the camera lingers on him when Archer leaves, which is weird because it should follow the hero, right? And we get to see him processing it. Anyone want to talk about like the post Archer stress moment? He shoved him and he shook him, but he didn't beat him up.
I think he's supposed to be us.
Dean Stockwell.
Yeah, Dean Stockwell at the end when he has that like he's coming to Jesus moment. All that look where they, like you said, the camera lingered on him. That's supposed to be us.
This was us in 1942, and we don't want to go back to this being us in, say, 2008 in a near future of that time. Like 5 or 6 years from now, could we get back to this?
They had to tell a story about the Suliban, some sci-fi that they're actually a people. And what better way to do that with this story? It was.
I thought that when we had the conversation with our primary Suliban down there on the planet, when he talked about what was going on and what Suliban society was like, one, it showed that Earth had done absolutely no intel on their primary enemies. And two, Archer's getting this shit for the first time. Like, nobody found this out. The Vulcans couldn't tell them this. It's like, our home world became uninhabitable 300 years ago. And I thought it was really good writing that he left it at that.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't lock themselves in. This is the opposite of Discovery. No spinning wheels and gears in the dialogue. As we go around the horn, we'll give our grades, but I'll give some thoughts first. How did the Tandarians know all this shit? We figure out it's because they hacked the shuttle's mainframe. Good enough. But like, it was almost as though they had been watching the show. Why aren't we? And why does the shuttle's mainframe have the details of the mission to the Klingon homeworld? Why doesn't it just have avionics on it? Nice little touch there with the communicator being beamed in. But here's another thing. After that attack by Trip, where he just circles back to attack again and again and again after he disables their defenses and starts taking out some of the buildings in the compound, how many fucking casualties did that guy cause? Why aren't we immediately at war against these militaristic, paranoid weirdos that we attack? We just subvert their legal system and take our people back. We're like, you know what? We thought about this. Fuck you. Whether they're enemies or potential allies versus the Kabbalah, would have been cool to hear about these people again. At least, like, the next time we talk to Admiral Forrest, like, what the people from Tandair Prime really hate us now. We've got problems with this going on. Is it me, or are they on about the same tech level as Starfleet? Sure seems that way.
They seem about equal.
And also the ships that they attacked, that they sent to intercept the Enterprise, they damaged them, and those ships have to land. They could have killed people on those too. So they could have killed like 100 people in this attack. Mayweather, again, just doesn't do much, and his delivery is only okay. I'll reiterate this one. It does make sense the third best shuttle pilot is Trip, doesn't it? Because Archer would be best, Mayweather would be second best, and then it would be Trip. These shuttle pods, does anyone see a shuttle pod or a shuttle of any kind do this kind of damage again until Deep Space Nine? I mean, Kirk wishes he had 4 or 5 of these shuttle pods, man. Did Trip trick this one out?
He must have. Don't see anything with that firepower until the runabouts come around.
Not even in this show do we again attack with a shuttle pod. This was like the Orville's shuttle pods.
No, it was better than the Orville shuttle pods.
He had phaser power that was extremely high. It's like, what is there, a little warp core in there? Like, we're supposed to believe that these ships are not that well enabled, and like he's got that weapons. Like he vaporizes a few buildings. The shuttle pods are overpowered. How come the guards aren't suspicious of this small Suliban who they've never seen before in camp with only 90 detainees, a lot of which are children? Wouldn't they know all the faces and know he's unfamiliar?
And why didn't they know exactly what happened? Why don't they have cameras in the barracks?
And isn't he a little short? He's conspicuous. Unless, Phantom Outsider said it for me. My joke was all teed up and ready to go. We need to hire someone for DEI purposes. So I spoke to a Ferengi today, and he might work out. Also, Neelix contacted me today. He has plenty of Star Trek experience, but the guy I was hoping for, and he hasn't answered my DM, but I think he'd be a great addition to the show, Galron. I think Galron would be a great panelist on our show, but we'll find out. But yes, he said it. Let's see. The aliens know one thing about Earthers: don't mess with Florida Man. Yes. Florida Man is just like, I souped up the manifold and I'm ready to roll coal in the shuttle. What's up with Florida Man sipping up the shuttle? It's like, should he have had the Confederate flag on top and said General Lee on the side? Waylon Jennings breaks in. Well, that Florida Man Trip sure had himself some catfish and grits this morning.
It's from Disney World. Got to come to
like
Disney.
The only who's the only military hero they had? Like, what if we found out then that like Trip is like a space Republican? It's like the Colonel Green. It's got the Terra Prime logo on the top of it. Glory to your battle, anticipating your DEI hire of Galron. I admire Archer. He's a front stabber, not a backstabber. He would watch the life drain from his enemy's eyes. Galron would be a great critic.
You got to get the crazy eyes in there. And
for a little while, I had Ardra, But after some wild sex, she started making my apartment shake and started asking me for money. So I pretended that I had something to do, and we both had to leave my apartment. I just walked around the block and came back. I had a lot easier time getting rid of Ardra than Picard did. I'm a little smarter than him, though.
Hey, did she turn into Feklar for you?
But you know what? It was a wild night with both Ardra and Feklar.
Yeah, that's what it gets. It gets a little rough.
Yeah, you know. I gave my thoughts. Let's whip it around the horn. We'll start over at first base. We'll throw it down to Sean. Go ahead, Sean.
Initially, it's funny. I initially gave this an A when I logged in, and now I have to lower it because you pointed out a significant number of plot holes, and the actions of Trip, I have to say, was very unhuman. Like, on the one hand, we have Archer doing the human thing of what we'd expect him to do, and then on the other hand, you've got Trip starting an interstellar war, which, granted, yeah, they were being held and they needed to become and get rescued, but there should have been better ways to do it, and they were not in imminent danger down there.
And T'Pol might be to blame because she sort of quarterbacks the military moves, and she now has like a mind meld transmitted disease. So maybe she's Space Napoleon. It was a little too mean.
Maybe
the attack was vicious.
A lot of cool stuff in it. A good story, good acting. I believed the characters. They were heartfelt. You know, the bringing the kids in there, and but like the other plot holes, like he didn't recognize Reed. I mean, the earlier in the episode, the one guy says, "Hey, this is the third time this week you've done this." Like, he knows what each of these people are doing on a day-to-day basis, and like he doesn't recognize
in the same town as one of the guards.
Yeah.
Also, everyone conveniently speaks English. They're like, "What? What? I can understand you. You're speaking English? No, I'm speaking Tidarian Prime. By coincidence, it's exactly the same. Let's just continue."
They did forget about the UT in this episode a little bit, but
better person to be stranded with would have been Hoshi. She could have looked sexy while they imagine a sort of dirty Linda Park in like scantily clad and torn up outfit, like sort of, you know, with wild hair. It's like she could have been like, "I could understand them now, Captain," because we do nothing with Mayweather. If we had switched roles and let's say Mayweather was like, "I've hooked the communications gear through the navigational array," that still falls enough within his skill set that I could believe it. And he'd be like, "So I have a fix." He could have said that just as woodenly as any of the lines that he delivered, you know, with varied degrees of success. Sometimes he's right on, sometimes he was bad.
What do they call that? Spackle? A couple throwaway lines to explain it. I'm fine if they didn't explain away.
They could have swapped the characters with Hoshi and Mayweather to make this episode make a lot more sense on a few levels, because being afraid and protecting Hoshi is a lot different than being afraid for Mayweather. Planning to go on the most violent path with Hoshi and planning to go on the most violent path with Mayweather. Two different things, too.
I would have meant that would have been maybe they've been too close to home, where she was like, "This is where my ancestors had to go through."
Yeah, they could not have mentioned that. That would have.
It was too close to home.
What I hated was they got specific. Did they take sides? They took sides on two unambiguous issues: that having prisoners and the way we treat them will be something that people will use to measure our society down the line for good or bad, and it just has always been. That's just a universal historical constant. When you go to war, how bellicose are you, and at what point does diplomacy end?
Well, you had a great point earlier where, like, Archer, like the Suleiman are like their big enemy. They're in this temporal Cold War. They don't know what's going on, and here they have, like, with the Tandarians, a potential ally to get through this. Like, you think Archer would have, like, maybe not liked what he was seeing, but he wouldn't have. He would have swallowed it up and go, "Okay, I'll deal with this later. We got to, you know, we might have to save the planet. Oh, you know, Earth is a little more important than those folks. You know, like, that would have been a great moment for Archer to struggle with a choice there and make the correct one. The correct choice would have been not to do what he did. You know, that would have been a great story arc. Like, watch Archer struggle. Like, do I save these people, or do I maybe grab this ally that we might need to save our fucking planet?
He should have been talking to the Tandarians like, we can learn a lot from each other, and we all know we can't trust the Suliban. So why would, like, the only reason we're trying to have it both ways with the Suliban is so that Dean Stockwell can play this provocative role without
makeup. I know, but now the more I think of it,
just for him.
The better story would have been to have Archer have to choose and like, okay, I gotta make allies with you. We need to save the Earth. Then we'll deal with it.
That may have been a little bit too deep for the first season.
It would
have been more for season 3, but
agreed.
Too early now.
So you're great.
True.
Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to lower mine to a B. I had it at an A when I voted in the chat, but I'm going to drop it down to a B now that we've been talking.
B. Okay, you're going to go with a B. Next in the whip around is our good friend Cyrus. Cyrus, how'd you enjoy this fun episode of Star Trek Enterprise? Fun was had, I'll give it that.
I mean, it was all right. I like Trip's bombing run of indiscriminately just destroying stuff, not knowing if he might take something out. I guess he just really wanted to do that, and it was on his bucket list. A little limited. I don't know, maybe.
It's from Florida.
I get what they were doing, but it's kind of like an overdone trope in a lot of things. You wake up suddenly and you're in one of those unhappy places. So I don't know. I mean, it's just really overplayed. So I'd say maybe I'm being a little harsh on a C- there, but I did love one of the Cylons being in there. Of course, he's the bad guy.
So you said C?
Yeah, C, C-, something like that.
Yeah, Teag ruined it for me.
So Cyrus gives it a C. Germ.
I give it a B. Some of the same reasons. They were a little bit overhanded with the message. There is some plot errors. At times it felt not really to fit because Archer was just so quick to take the side against the Tandarians, not so much with the Suliban. He is just instantly against the, especially Dean Stockwell's character. But yeah, initially I had it higher at a like A-, but it slowly worked its way down to a B.
So you were like me, over the discussion, you realized like, oh no, I was not quite as good as I thought.
Yeah, got a little bit blinded by the fan service of having the Quantum Leap reunion in there.
The acting is an A+ throughout the whole episode.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? It might even be a little unfair to Mayweather. Was he perhaps exposed as like just an average actor with these two really good actors who have a long-standing working relationship? Could it be that he just fades in the light of this really good performance? And Dean Stockwell, he is empathetic at times. He is despicable at other times, and then arcs back to, that part of it is great.
His character was great.
He's great.
The character itself was fine.
It's a little heavy-handed on to which way they want him to portray it.
The only way to make this work is to do it as a two-parter is the way I would see it, right? To answer all the canonical problems. And is it worth another episode just to have it be a perfect story? Did they make the right decision saying it's going to have some ragged edges, like how they got captured? Like, would have been a little bit better to get like, it's like they're clueless to what faction they've engaged. We've gotten hypno-raid a couple of too many times in the last few weeks. It just feels old, but... All right, hold on. Let me just turn this off. The crazy music it served its purpose. All right, it's my turn. My problems with this episode were included but not limited to. We had to come up with I came up with 7 different euphemisms that we had to use throughout the episode so that we only said the bad word once, because I believe you're on a bad word count, not a bad word prohibition, unless it's like something really effed up and used hatefully. So thoughts. How do these Tandarians know all this? How have they been watching the show? Why aren't they immediately on a war footing against these militaristic paranoid weirdos we attacked? Why aren't they attacking us back? We destroyed their entire fucking base. Whether they're enemies or potential allies versus the Cabal, would have been cool to hear about them again. The Tandarians seem to be on about the same tech level, so they shouldn't have been dismissed so easily. They can't be all that far away. Mayweather again just doesn't do much, and his delivery is only okay. It makes sense that Trip's the best, is the third best pilot. That was like the triumph of the show. But wow, he is like the most vindictive and dangerous. He's like it was like Top Gun Trip. He's like, I'm gonna go down there and kill everybody who's messed the captain. How come the guards are? It just is. It's like he destroys that entire. Like, wouldn't it be great if we had gotten like some in-shuttle audio from Trip, where he was just like play-by-play the way swamp people do it? He's just like Troy. It's just like, now I'll tell you what here, I'll see this here base. All I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the particle beam up all the way and just blow that right apart while I use the phase cannon on the other one. A few rockets are going to save them when I come back straight around. Tell you what. It's like, what? That's
more like Boomhauer. It's like,
I'm trying to stay away from doing from Hank Hill, and I can't do the Louisiana accent. I can't do it. If someone wants to do Troy Landry, go ahead. But you get what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
How come the guards aren't suspicious of Reed in this relatively small prison camp, even if he does look Suliban? Did anyone else catch that his arms weren't made up and his hands weren't made up? They were bare. So when you watch it again, look at his hands and arms when he leans down and picks up stuff off the floor when he's kneeling down. His arms are human. But they don't realize he's unfamiliar. Okay, and how come we're not at war? If nothing else, and Trip's super aggressive shuttle strafing run attack absolutely kills a few Targaryens. And also, before I give my grade, this is my thought for the episode after the episode. Like off screen, it's just like all of the Suliban have gotten away except a few. There's massive casualties among the Tandarian guards. As the last Suliban are behind, they're burying the collateral damage because Trip's killed dozens and dozens of Suliban as well with the indiscriminate and completely vicious attack on that compound where he knew there was a lot of innocent people. So as they're burying their dead and get to they're like, he saved us, but at the same time, he cost so many lives. And we have a lot to think about. They're like, no, you don't, you Suliban bastards. And the last thing we see is Clem and the other guards beating them down. The camera just goes up God's eye view and fades away. Sometimes you got to break a few eggs.
Oh, God.
Also, what would have been funny is if Archer would have been I'd be ashamed if you missed the shuttle. It's not for 3 days. And he's like, well, that's no big deal. It's like, on this planet, days are 84 of your months long. We just happen to speak English. Days just happen to be the same way. There's a lot of plot conveniences here. A lot of them I'm willing to be forgiving of. I don't care that a day is a day. We don't have to do that every time. But there was some stuff that was left out of the proper development of this. So I give it a C even. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm going to give it a C. You know what? I'm going to give it a C+ for the acting. I'm going to give it a C+ for the acting. Because maybe the reason that the Tandarians don't attack us is because I honestly believe Dean Stockwell was thinking a lot about all that happened after Archer spares him completely.
The performances were fine. The characters were fine. It's just the story.
It's a Phantom Outsider Trip. I feel like my 4-time great-grandfather on my mom, Doug Master Archer's side. You're related to Iron Eagle? That's amazing, Trip. Yeah, not only that, but I'm related to a bunch of guys who went to jail for war crimes in every war in America's history because they were overly aggressive on the battlefield. Oh, is that true, Trip? My great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was one of the only Confederate generals relieved of command for being too aggressive. Insane Beauregard Tucker the First. That attack, there were so many innocent prisoners there. How did he know he wasn't going to get some prisoners? What can we say? These people that we attacked really heavily was we determined that they're so beneath contempt that they haven't even bothered to human shield their bases. We'll be able to hit them extra hard. I'll shield them for messing with the captain. Thanks for that information. We'll need to know where we can get the most casualties. But does anyone want to weigh in on the shuttle attack? That might be the morality of this episode, because it seems like if we're supposed to believe the Tandarians are people teetering on a moral choice who could go one way or another and might be redeemable, but right now have gone too far, and that this might be something that starts to change them, because Colonel Graff is going to say these humans, they were tough, they had a sense of nobility, they didn't like people being oppressed, and they attacked all out. They killed hundreds of people and a bunch of guys on those 2 small ships we sent up there. They absolutely, and a lot of Suliban went free. They're going to join the cabal. Maybe. I mean, we shouldn't mess with the humans, and maybe we should be nicer to the Suliban who stay, not give them a reason to flee. Maybe if we're nicer to them here, we wouldn't have to go to war with these insane Earth people who like pain.
Yeah, it gives that impression on both the Tadarians and the Suliban. As they're flying off, they see Trip doing donuts around the base and just firing at it randomly and say, yeah, we should stay away from these human wackos.
Because T'Pol would absolutely want to be the pilot of that shuttle. Then she'd be like, I am now the most qualified shuttle pilot if you are going to be the tour gunner. And then Trip would just be firing away with some kind of phaser type weapon. And it would definitely be a Nom scene. It would be the get some moment of Full Metal Jacket. So yeah, it would be an A+ if they homage that. It was just they're bordering on Utrecht level of violently vengeful on the people who kidnapped. It's we'll show them never to take one of us prisoner again. The only thing that justifies the level of the attack is that they wanted their guys back, and they were just maybe we should teach these guys not to fuck with us and the captain no more.
Yeah, well, what if Trip's excuse was, well, sorry, Captain, they shouldn't have shown Top Gun at movie night.
It's a Paramount movie, Captain. I loved it.
Yeah, they could have definitely thrown in Top Gun.
I don't want to have it just sort of turn into Star Trek.
Thank you for your attention.